Hi, I'm Fabricio Pamplona. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. So, really happy to take the audience here to discuss the future of science communication. We just had a quick warm up here with Gio Costa and Elena Decker, discussing about the threats and perhaps opportunities that new technologies brings to us, science communicators. And the discussion today will be not only about that, but about the career and the turning points that made these three people here, three previous neuroscientists that decided to become science communicators in different ways. So I decided to found a company, Mind the Graph, which is now part of Cactus Communications Group. We created in Mind the Graph a platform that allows scientists to express visually, to create graphical abstracts, create posters, create presentations, things like that, by employing a vast library of scientifically accurate illustrations in a very friendly interface, which is now present to over 500,000 people all over the world. I imagine some of you in the audience may be our users. And I'm here among colleagues and friends. To begin with, I'd like to just say a few words about Gio, who is a previous neuroscientist. As I said, we met first in Brazil and then in Portugal. And he decided to become a scientific designer and illustrator, now living in Brussels after a few years working in this field in Portugal. As some of the examples of the coverage of his work, of course, has made a lot of presentations, animations, things like that, but even covers published in Neuron and Nature Neuroscience. His PhD in neuroscience comes from the perspective of biology, and I bring these two examples here, and three if I include myself, to tell you that productive scientists, happy scientists can also find joy in other careers. So it's not like giving up when you decide to become something else and use your background as a scientist to generate value in other field. I also have here Elena Decker, a previous neuroscientist from Brazil that migrated to US. She has, for 7 years, or she had this opportunity, this experience of working as a scientific communications head at the Max Planck Institute in US. And she was responsible for making the bridge or bridging the gap between the labs and the community. Scientists must step out of the ivory tower and start talking with people. So this could be done via words, this could be done via figures, this could be done via animations. The media and the ways are very different. But that's something if you're not yet forced to do that, we are strongly encouraged. Why? Because first, it raises public awareness, which is always good. I mean, what is the point of producing good quality science if nobody reads or nobody knows? So that's my point. Second point is that it's good for your career because you will be known, And the third point is good for funding. Did I say it's good for funding? Yes, it's good for funding. So you make money if people understand and knows what you're doing. So those are, briefly saying the three main reasons why I believe that you guys should pay attention to science communication, start to enroll in activities related to science communication, and also, get some education on that, because it's not all pink sea, it's not all flowers. No, there are some challenges and caveats, and new technologies are bringing yet more fearful challenges, as we are just saying. Just to finish, Elena is also founder of Backyard Courses, leading online learning hub, and she surpassed me. She almost impacted 1 million students, so I'm halfway to her journey, and I'm very proud of having you both here. So if you can just start. I said just a few words about each of you, but I want to start with you, explaining a little bit about your motivation. How science communication entered your life, how you made this decision to change the career. Ladies first, so please, Elena.
Hi, Fabricio. Hi, everyone. First of all, I want to say that I'm very thankful to be invited to participate of this panel. It's always exciting to share my experience and also to talk about science communication. So who am I? I am just a woman passionate about discoveries, creativity, and innovation. And how communication entered my life? I'm just going to start saying that I am very fortunate that I had a chance to work in many different labs in different cities of Brazil and also in Canada and US. And throughout my career, I had the chance to interact with and to learn from different scientists, some of them very experienced, and also to learn with them the importance of storytelling. And that was important because when I was doing my experiments, I learned how to be mindful of thinking of what are the questions that I'm trying to ask, and how to actually tell the story as soon as the discovery was done. But the main click in my mind happened when I was doing my second postdoc, already working at the Max Planck Florida Institute for Neuroscience. That is the first Max Planck Institute located outside Europe, and it's located in Florida, in US. And I was just a few weeks working in this institute, and I already fell in love about the research and the impact that this institute was causing to the community, and I would say the community in America, South America, and US. And in addition to my scientific project, which was going very well, I started to get involved in activities that would explain some of the questions that my colleagues and I were working on. And I noticed that I was having more fun preparing posters, giving talks, presentations, and translating the science to visitors and students. So I was having more fun doing things outside the bench. But then an opportunity just knocked on my door, and they created a position for a scientist, for a neuroscientist, in the communications office at the same institute that I was working as a postdoc. And I decided to apply for this job. I had no experience as a communicator, so I just thought, okay, it's a good experience to do that. But then I got an offer, and I had to do a very difficult decision to accept that job, especially because I was working for at least 13 years, to thinking that one day I would be a professor managing one lab, but then accepting a position in an admin position was something that I was not thinking as a possibility. And there's another thing that at Max Planck Florida, I had a chance to work with resources that I never had a chance to. I came from Brazil, so there we have creative ways of using the resources in order to make it happen and create good science. But at Max Planck, I had a chance to have my 2-photon rig available day and night for me. And I had a chance to work with genetically modified animals, as many as I wanted, different types. And my project was going well, but then I decided to trust my gut and accept the job outside the bench. And since then, during that time, for 7 years, I worked in the communications department. 2 years later, I was managing the department and creating new ways and channels to promote science to students, to a wider audience, and it was a very fantastic idea for me and for my career. So, I don't know. I hope that I answer your question, Fabricio.
It's a very interesting story, and I'll pass the mic to Jill. But then, right after, I can understand your perspective on how important it is to be a scientist, to become a science communicator. Because people with different backgrounds also, step into this activity. So Gil, you can introduce yourself and already answer this question if you want.
Sure, and thanks, Elena. I think actually my background and my course of how did I become what I do now. So what I do now is I'm a designer and scientific illustrator. It's very similar to Elena. So I come from Portugal. At that time, I was doing a PhD in neurosciences in Lisbon in the Champalimaud Institute. It's a nice institute with a nice view and really amazing people. It was an institute that was just starting. And because it was starting, it had a lot of dynamics also in science communication. At that time, we were doing, as the PhD students, we were doing some events to promote science to the audience. We were taking advantage of professors that were coming to the institute to give talks, and would pick a couple of them to make a big events for the audience. At that time, TED Talks were starting to become a thing, so it was some sort of a TED Talk kind of thing. And my role for that project was to be an illustrator, a designer, creating posters for the events. I've been doing works on illustration and design since my university times. I was part of a theater group where I was also designing the posters, and the PhD I continued. And when I was finishing my PhD, my boss at that time, Zach Main, and he asked me what I wanted to do. Do you want to become a postdoc? How can I help you? Do you want some recommendation letters? And I told Zach, actually, I want to learn a little bit more about graphic design and a little bit more about illustration. He was surprised, of course, but I was very fortunate to be at that place and surrounded by supportive people, and also that it was a new place that was starting a science communication office. They needed someone with my skills. And I joined the science communication office for 3 years. I developed my portfolio. Then after 3 years, I joined a big exhibition on the brain in Lisbon at the Gulbenkian Museum. And now I'm a freelancer in Belgium and working part-time with Medcom. So I think I am doing what I'm doing, and with the success that I'm doing, also because throughout my career until I decided to move, I nurtured my parallel interests. I was not just a scientist. I was doing other things for fun, but these skills were very useful when I decided, maybe science is not my career. Although I had a lot of fun doing it. And I think, at least for the things that I do, I think it's important to have a scientific background, coming to your question, Fabrizio, because I think that what I bring, the special thing about my services, if we can call it like that, is that there is no need for translation between the scientist and the illustrator or the designer. And that is something that the scientists tell me, that they feel relieved that they don't need to explain what a cell is, because I know what a cell is, or a neuron, or can escalate to more complexity. So I don't think, it depends on the roles in science communication. There are also different roles, but I feel that there is it's very important that the science communicator understands science, and it's also important that the science world understands that the science communication is a field of itself, with characteristics and also with specific types of knowledges that just a normal scientist doesn't have, just coming from the bench. So it's a talk, it's a dialogue, and of course it's better if you understand the language of science to make this dialogue continue.
I agree. Just revealing a little bit about myself, I was about to enter the course of journalism just before I decided to become a pharmacist. So I was a little bit into communication before. And then when I joined my first lab as an intern, like the very beginning of the scientific career as an undergrad, the first abstract I wrote, the PhD student that was kind of together with me project, he said, "Look, man, this is no poetry. The way you explain, the way you communicate, this is not science. You should write something else. I mean, just go straight to the point. You don't have space, you don't have time. No, go straight to the point." Now, when it comes to science communication, perhaps part of these skills are necessary again, because you need to involve the public, right? So how do you see, Elena? Is it important to be a scientist, or should we let go of the scientist a little bit to become a good science communicator?
No, I feel like at least for my experience, having a strong neuroscience background was crucial, especially because there's still some resistance from professors to explore the different channels of communication that you could use to communicate their discoveries. And if one of the main things that we need to be careful is to keep it accurate. And if we translate too much and it's not accurate anymore, the resistance is just overwhelming. So it's kind of, we need, as a science communicator, the main goal should be, in my opinion, to keep it accurate, translate, but keep it accurate. And for me, my mission during this time working as a science communicator at Max Planck, my mission was to tell the students, tell our story, because few people in America knew at the time what institute was just sitting there in their neighborhood, like part of the Max Planck Society. In Europe, it's very easy to understand the importance of the whole group of 86 institutes, part of this big mission of advancing science. But here in America, it's not the case. So my mission was to show them, show the community, show the students how important it is to do high quality science. And this institute that I worked was studying fundamental aspects, so basic research. And it's even more challenging to explain that because there's no fast cure or no we actually had a few breakthroughs, but they were more in a fundamental level. So for me, this mission was important, crucial. And there's another thing. We as scientists, let's talk about the scientists. There's a lot of funding coming from all the different countries, governments, and agencies. So all this funding goes to science, and the people should understand what is coming from that and how it is the advance in understanding things, and especially the brain that I am so passionate about, how it is to understand this, how we perform things during the day, motivation and things like that. So I think that it's our mission to, we as scientists or former neuroscientists, to explain that to the community, to family, to everyone.
Nice.
They explain to me.
Now, moving a little beyond of this initial topics, I want to understand your perspective on what changed since you began. You began at one point. Science communication is changing. I mean, it's an evolving field. Is perhaps even a new field, we could say, in terms of impacting a broader audience, like raising public awareness of science. All this dark times of fake news, all this brings a lot of challenges, but also provides more value, to science communication as a point of truth, I would say, as a source of truth. So how did you see, the field evolving in this last 10 years or since you began, and where is it going? Let's do a little bit of futurology here. So who's going to start?
I can start by saying, so as I mentioned, when I started, I think one of the things that was common or starting to become something was these TED Talks. And TED Talks and this type of sharing knowledge is very top down. There's a specialist that goes to an audience and it just dumps a little bit of knowledge, which can be a little bit fun or not, and then you expect to feel like a cup of knowledge to the people. I think this changed a bit. So I see a lot more of these initiatives of citizen science, where the science communicators and the scientists try to come together with the community, stuff like what Elena has been talking about. and try to communicate in a more peer-to-peer way. So that is a change. Another change is that things became a little bit more global. I think when I started, it was mostly Europe and America. In Europe, even like the UK was the big spot for science communication. I think more and more I've been seeing a big spread of practitioners all over the world, and with different practices, which is actually super interesting to me as well. And then, of course, in terms of technology, a lot of things changed. Back in the day, we were preparing posters to be printed on a wall. Nowadays, that doesn't make any sense. What you do is everything for social media or for digital. The pandemics also kind of forced that. Like during the pandemics, all the poster presentations were online, so we needed to adapt content. VR is playing a role. Augmented reality is also playing a role, and this all serves to democratize even more a little bit science communication. So I think what I would pinpoint is that I think I see this trend of turning things more accessible and inclusive and democratic. But that's I think what I would say. Yeah.
Do you want to add something, Elena?
Yeah. So talking about professors, during my training as a student, sometimes I would see a very famous scientist, sometimes even my scientific hero, presenting a talk that was not clear or was not to the point. And it was a little bit frustrating. And at the same time, at that time, it started bringing this concept that to be a scientist, you also need to present your information well to students and to the community. These days, it's so competitive to be a professor, right? So the new generation of scientists and postdocs, they need to know how to communicate their science also well. Not just us as professional science communicators, they also need to somehow receive some training on how to do a better job or how to accept and engage with the communications offices from their universities and institutes. I had some resistance from professors, from junior professors when I started. But then at the Max Planck Florida, there's a rotation of these junior labs, and the new group that started in 2020, 2021, the new groups, the professors, they were way more open to the ideas of working together with my group, my communications group. So I saw the difference just in a few years, maybe 5 years, how open they were. They were coming from postdocs, long postdocs, but they were still kind of a new generation, I would say. And I also noticed that students, graduate students and postdocs, just a few years, it changed a little bit the way that they would also see that and the importance. And we were always, I was always trying to have time before the publication, the scientific publication is indeed published, to create visuals. Visual abstracts. That's one of the best ways of actually creating, passing the message. Videos, illustrations. So I was always using everything that I had in time for creating that. And my first years there, I was actually working as a spy to know when a publication would actually be coming out. And then later on, I was working with the professors, and they were always telling me, hey, we are almost getting accepted. So then we had time to create videos and different things to promote in many different channels, right? And so I saw that happening just in a few years. And I believe that if the new generation of graduate students, if they are more open, and maybe something classes that would show the importance of communication and presentations, and we gave courses for our graduate students at Max Planck to teach them how to present, how to create posters, how to create a visual image, how to make a clear message. We were giving that, but I'm not sure if other universities and institutes would have that in their programs. So that's something to add.
Nice. I have several takeaways from the speech of both of you. So first thing I realized that there's a trend towards some interest in science communication. So new generations are perhaps more eager or more used to communicate openly. Second, competition is higher, so we need to try to stand out with as many resources as we want. Then the third thing, Gilles said something very interesting. Science communication is more democratic. Anyone can literally be recognized as an author. Now you have social media tools. You don't need to have the stamp of published to be an author. You become an author instantly. You're a source of information. And as scientists or even students, we have access to privileged information and we can share. So that's really nice. And I think that science communication may come even before in the career, even before you publish something. What Elena is saying is that the PIs, they of course when they publish an important matter, they use more resources, they dedicate time to communicate. But even pre-publication, we have access to a lot of privileged information. I think this is really something insightful that we just had from this conversation. One thing that I wanted to add, or two things, is one is my moment when I realized that science communication was important. I think I was always good in communication somehow, but then one day I watched, I was in person, in presence, in a conference by Miguel Nicoleles, one of the Brazilian stars in terms of science, and I cried. It struck me. I said, look, I was in a scientific conference. I'm getting shivers right now as I speak. Like I was in a scientific conference and this guy made me cry. I mean, this is such a power. It involves you in a way that I was used to have these feelings in like movies, in a theater or in a concert. But science can also be beautiful, can also be, inspiring and make you cry, literally. And by the way, I'm not one of these guys crying in every movie, just as a background explanation. So this was one important thing. Second thing is when I realized that, what will be the direction, for MindTheGraph as a project. We started understanding this trend of visual communication, like the visual abstracts, as Elena said, graphical abstracts, and we started to provide this as a service. I, together with an illustrator, we're both trying to generate a service that was valued enough for the science to be paid. This is the first validation. If you know something, right? If you have an audience, it's all right. But when someone decides to pay you for that, then you have let's say a business opportunity. And that's what I wanted to generate while still a scientist. I was still a scientist at that time. And then one day I had a click because we created the draft, of a conceptual figure, like a mechanism explanation, something like that. Could be a visual abstract, but it wasn't, like, was for a review. And then being a concept, it was incomplete, by design. It is meant to be incomplete. But the guy receiving that, first he print that. He didn't work on a digital kind of board. He print, wrote a lot of things, complained a lot, and then digitalized again, scanned it again, and sent it back. And he even suggested some colors. He painted like part of it. And he was like long past explaining what was wrong, what he wanted to do, send that figure. And then I had a click. I said, man, these guys, they already know what they want. We just know we should get a service or a product or something that has all the resources they need with the less friction possible, because they already know. They are fed of people trying to reproduce, and they need to explain what is a cell, what is like a very basic concepts. They don't have time. They are frustrated. All the relationships with illustrators, which are non-scientists, is frustrating. We need to get rid of all this friction and just, try to educate them as much as possible and give the resources. And that was the click, for MinderGraph. And more than that, we should make it very, very simple, because these people are not used to draw in digital world. They are used to write with a pen. So that was the click when this was 2015, when I decided to create a product. My company was already a concept. I knew there was a business opportunity, but in what form it should be, just was born at that time. So I think it was really kind of one of these insightful moments. And 8 years later, here we are. So I wanted to share with you, also because I see that you guys passed through similar experiences. And as Gil said, as you don't need this translation, your service it's placed in a different shelf. Let's put it this way, because explaining the very basic things, it's a pain in the neck for the scientist.
Let me just add something quickly related
Yes.
to that. I think, and I also agree with Dylan, I think in my job, visual literacy is improving much more. So scientists, indeed, they do know what a good figure should look like, what a good graphical abstract should look like. Now, one thing that I think we provide is that comes from design, is that you still need to understand your user. You still need to understand who is going to read or look at the figures that you're preparing. And that is something that's it's our job as science communicators to help the scientist to go over this curse of knowledge that thinks that everyone knows the same thing as I do, and focus on the user, whoever is experiencing the figure that we just prepared. What do they need to know? And that is the leverage that then we can add to the soup, to the potion. Yeah.
Nice. One thing that didn't come out when you spoke, and I was expecting that, is about the kind of celebrity scientists. After Neil deGrasse Tyson, now we have people with 10,000 followers who are also kind of celebrities, or 30,000 or 50,000. In Brazil, there was really insurgent. A lot of scientists, all of a sudden, being prepared or not, became celebrities, became like people on the TV shows, influencing literally millions with their opinions. So this is something for me that was really remarkable in the last 3-4 years, probably because of pandemics, but it's here to stay. So this is, I'm very glad to have these guys. Some scientists I know, they produce a lot of antibodies against celebrities, against scientists going to the mass media. But I think this is part of it's nice to be part of the society. That's the place we always wanted. We always wanted to have a word and be recognized. So I think these guys played a role. Now we are seeing also just the beginning of scientists being politicians as well. That's I would say is a trend, in addition to science being celebrities. If politics, survive the digital era, perhaps not. That's a very good discussion. So, internet for sure empowered scientists. We just said that. So, how about the technologies that are coming right now? Some people say that interface-less conversations with a machine like ChatGPT, it's the new internet. What is the place of scientists and science communication in an era that we're going to speak with algorithms and robots? Who's gonna dare to start?
I can start. So I feel very excited to be living right now and to be part of this advance in the way that we do things. But it's at the same time, it's very scary to have a software that can write better than you can. So it's usually if you write a few sentences and you use ChatGPT, for example, sometimes, well, most of the time, what it comes out is it's very nice and it's cute, and it's and the important thing is that it can be used in a positive way in many professions. And for journalists, media, press, and science communicators, it was a little bit a scary moment when it came out, because if this software would replace their jobs, right? And I see like the ChatGPT can be useful for many things, and I don't see it replacing jobs at the moment. And for scientists especially, it can help, not talking about communicators right now, but scientists as professors and them as communicators. It has a lot of benefits for them, because they can use to generate more clear and concise explanations, for example, of their research. It can help them to provide alternative perspectives maybe about their research. So for them, it can help to make an idea a little more clear, and maybe even more approachable to students and the community. But I do feel like it's still very important for scientists and maybe know the aspects to be to evaluate what is coming out of that software, and what type of information is getting generated. I used it a few times that I was a little unsure why it's changing the way that I'm saying now. It's not accurate. So, but I surprisingly many times I got happy with the result of the way that it was rephrasing a few paragraphs, or even giving ideas for some explanations. So I feel optimistic that it can be used in many ways in a positive way. And it's the just mentioning the backyard courses, our learning hub platform that my partner and I we have already a few courses, a few masterclass trainings, and the people are really searching for good information about these softwares, and they are and the updates are getting weekly, and people are just running after this information and using it in business, in marketing, in all the different areas that they can use. So it's again, it's very exciting to be in the midst of everything that is happening.
Sure. Just adding, some people complain that ChatGPT is still incomplete because it read a reference just for until 2021. But just imagine when it's gonna start to be update, and really you can literally finally read everything that is coming out in science the same day. It's gonna be so exciting, because we basically can't crush that amount of information, and ChatGPT can, and AI can. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah,
Jill,
and just one more comment. When I was a kid, well, computers were just getting accessible, right? And Google didn't exist. So these days, or until ChatGPT, Google is the main search engine, right? At least from where I live here, and it's just I don't know how to do something in my house. I'll go Google it, and you can search and you can learn how to do that. But now we are stepping up into a smarter software that can do, oh my God, even more things. So I see like in a few years we'll be replaced by Google for sure, and ChatGPT will replace Google for sure. And I can't even think about all the things that we will use ChatGPT for. So it's exciting for me.
And I see. It's a nice parallel that you are seeing with Google, which is a reference for our generation. Let's put it this way: we are more or less same age all here. But I would say that knowing how to interact with algorithms, with AIs, is like it was like learning to use a typewriter. Is a very basic skill, very basic. I mean, I have 2 4 years old kids. They're gonna learn that. We are like playing with Mid Journey last Saturday. This was by intent. They need to get used, and find normal to interact with robots, because that would be a very basic skill, in my opinion. Not knowing how to write a good prompt, just to begin with, it's not being no, it's illiteracy for their generation. That's how I see.
So, for me, I'm still formulating my opinion about it. For instance, I tried Midjourney and DALL-E and other algorithms, and indeed, the prompt, in order for me to write a good prompt, was the limiting step. And so that most of the times I didn't continue. I was just frustrated with the results, and I decided, okay, I might as well just try to come with the things myself. I used it to generate ideas, basically, not to substitute any type of image that I would do. And just coming back a little bit before, I think it's a tool that we will have to learn with it, and it will be a good tool. I have a good friend of mine that I know since we're 6, and unfortunately he wasn't able to finish his university. He wanted to be a computer scientist. For the past months on WhatsApp, he's just telling me, hey, Gilles, like, I'm using ChatGPT, I'm learning Python. Check out this. He's doing a version of Winamp. So he's learning. He's very motivated, learning how to code on Python, creating his own programs with a teacher, let's say, that's always available to basically feed his curiosity. So that for me is very powerful. Coming back to the illustration world, I think what happened with the algorithms that produce images is that they just came up abruptly without taking into consideration the material that people have been creating so far. So the way that these algorithms use it, that they feed into these databases of images in order to then create a new image themselves. So they were created in a way that they didn't ask for permission to get the images in many cases. And there's a lot of people that really got even depressed in a way, that they started seeing their own style being replicated by a machine without them actually authorizing this. And this I think is an issue. I think it's an issue that will be solved, or it has to be solved. There's already some judicial things going on in that regard. And this brings me back to the necessity of actually, while we see this new technology emerging from computer sciences, we also need to have a lot of development in social sciences, in new research, I guess. I think it's on social sciences, to kind of try to understand how we as society and as people will deal with these technologies that will come. So we have to have a parallel where we see all this progress in computer sciences, in other types of sciences, and in the humanities, so that this new society that will emerge from dealing with such powerful algorithms, this kind of this new society will be the best for us as well. But yeah, I think I'm still looking forward to, but with some reservations. I don't think it will substitute anything that I do, and but at the same time, I'm not this type of illustrator that is there a lot for like 10 years to develop a really accurate, really fine-tuned skill. And I think that's what they feel, is that I worked so hard to get this skill, and now I have a machine that does it like this. We have to be able to accommodate their needs and their feelings while we progress to this new age.
Yeah, that's a very good comment. I heard about this controversial topic, to say the least, because when people reproduce Van Gogh, they say, "Wow, it's beautiful! It's creating Van Gogh." When the first song, I think, was a Nirvana song, wasn't it? First written by AI, like they reproduce Kurt Cobain. They're both dead, so they don't care. But when people started to reproduce artists who are still alive, they did care a lot.
Neil Young had a really nice comment on that. It was just really pissed, let's say. But yeah, we have to
Yeah.
take care of that. Yeah.
Well, I just saw that Abigail McLennan has made a question for us. Sorry, Abigail, it was like 18 minutes ago. I didn't see. I'm gonna answer in the comment, and I'm gonna stimulate the audience to throw us some questions. We still have some minutes, like 15 minutes to the end of the session. We'll be happy to answer live. So Q&A, ask whatever you want. You can ask to me, to both of us, to Gio or Lena. We'll be happy to start the conversation. But answering the question, it's how do you think COVID impacted science communication? Hopefully for the better. There's always a good side of anything, right? So it could be for the better. I'm this uncorrectable optimist. This is this is one of my issues, I would say. Sometimes it brings naiveness to people who are overly optimistic. For instance, believing that AI are here for the good. So I'm here biased on this way. But one thing that I think was positive impact of pandemic on science communication, first is raising awareness of about scientists. Like all of a sudden, people realize that in Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or Orkut for the older ones here, people can say anything, literally anything. Like I Google it, I become a specialist. But all of a sudden, they realize that a pandemic is a very serious thing. So you cannot Google and get an answer. I mean, how do I solve a pandemic of COVID? Not even Google knows. ChatGPT, I bet, doesn't know either. So when faced with things like that, they try to search around, and then they realize there were indeed people studying that for decades. So these people gotta know something about that. So when it comes to health, people do care. Some relatives, closer people were starting to suffer, and some even died. So this was taken seriously and was an opportunity for scientists to stand up because they were, if not source of truth, the most accurate explanation or the closest we had for a good response as a community for the fact. So I think this was the biggest opportunity. Second one was that all of a sudden we realized that there were indeed people creating content that were not that, for a good reason, like the fake news. They just wanted to become popular and clickbaits and all that. I'm still trying to understand what's the motivation of these people, on top of just creating chaos. Some people say that creating chaos is what fuels them, so that's the reason on itself. But just discussing fake news, I think it's a very good, or bring awareness to that is a very good effect of the pandemics and COVID, because these things could eventually be there, and it will be really hard to convince this community that it could be a threat. When you see that some people don't take the vaccine, for instance, and they do get COVID, this is a very objective kind of proof that discourse was wrong, even though with this evidence, some people have arguments against that. Now, vaccine is very controversial. It's just one example. But what I'm saying is that scientists, they may be wrong as well, because the hypotheses are sometimes not validated, but they are the closest or the best approach we can get to get good objective response to things like that. That's at least my belief. And the fact that we now may discuss the role of scientists in the society, I think it's a very good, very positive outcome of what we all passed through. Abigail, feel free to comment if you want. Gio and Lena, if you want to add, just my opinion.
I can add specifically in the data viz world, for instance, we had for almost 2 years, we had every day people looking at data, at plots, at the curves, at the graphs, the counts, the numbers. And this was a big increase, again, in data viz literacy in all the world. And also, I think people started understanding what is actually a good way to plot data, or a more informative way, and so on and so forth. Actually, one of the best analogies that we got during the pandemic was the flatten the curve, right? So this is an analogy that came directly from a representation of a plot. The other thing that I might add is that because of the lockdowns that we mostly had to stay at home during a long time, a lot of events, also in science communication events, a lot of conferences were actually forced to be online. So I got to see a lot of nice people, nice conferences, nice talks, nice workshops just through my computer. And I think this is something that it's here to stay. And yeah, that's one of the things that came out of the pandemic.
Yeah, and I can add a little bit that during this lockdown, all the few ways of communicating science during in-person conferences and events, they were all canceled. So we as science communicators had to find new ways to get the word spread out, and for community members and students, they also had to learn where the information was trustful. Like Fabrício said, it was a boom of fake news because everybody could just say something, right? Or explain their ideas. So first, the importance of communicating science, real good foundation quality science, and also for the other side to learn where are the channels that they can trust and how to do that. And definitely online approaches, they are here to stay. So one more reason why visuals, videos, they are here to stay too. Tell the message in a visual way is definitely more effective than just words and explanations like that. So it changes, but in a science communication perspective, in the right way.
Nice. No, very good points. Yeah, the fact that people all of a sudden care about charts, that really struck me as well here. So they're discussing charts. I mean, nobody cared about charts before. That was nice. So we still have 8 minutes to go. So I didn't receive any more questions. So people feel free to throw your questions. But I want to give a few more minutes for our people here, Elena and Gil, our guys, to talk about their own work. So Elena, can you tell us in 2-3 minutes what's the role of backyard courses and how does it impact science communication, or what is it here for?
Yeah, so Backyard Courses was created by me and my partner a few years ago. I was still working at Max Planck, so I was just doing some part of the developing and managing of this hub. But it was we created to serve as a little platform for giving information to students. So at the moment we have over 700,000 students. We are expanding since I joined full time, and the idea is to give access to information, and that's part of my mission as a communicator, to do that. That's the reason why I decided to join my partner and expand that in a way. It's a challenge to work to be. It's a challenge to be 100% my boss and determine the ways that I'm going to turn my own business, because before there was always someone trying to guide a little bit. But at the moment, I'm very excited that I will be incorporating a series of courses that are science based. So I will add to the portfolio of courses that we have that are basically digital strategies from business to marketing. But now I'm going to add a few courses that will talk about how to have peak performance through different using science-based tools. Like, for example, even sleeping better can make you have more focus in the morning, and so a few things like that. So I'm very excited that I will be adding some of the science knowledge that I acquired throughout the years, in addition to the managing aspects. And just as a quick comment, it's very important to work as a scientist, as a student, and learn how to manage your own project. So I don't know if many of the people listening right now, they are students, and it's very important to learn how to manage your own project and goals, because in one way or another you end up using that, and that's definitely something that helps me every day to keep up with my own objectives and goals. And
True. Also self-motivation, right? Because we scientists, we face so many frustrations, and then the fact that you're still pushing after all that, it's a very good skill.
yeah,
A small word of motivation for you as a colleague, as an entrepreneur. Somebody said this sentence to me once, and I want to pass away. They said that when you start something, you start a business like an entrepreneur, you feel a fear, right? Because all of a sudden you lose your floor, but never remember you lose your ceiling as well. So there's no floor, but there's no ceiling. The impact is for the bottom and top can be big. So just make sure you don't fall below, no, down the down the floor. Make sure someone hugs you if you fall. But the chance of success is really what excites in this field. So good luck, Elena. Gilles,
thank you.
you want to say a few words?
Yes,
3 minutes
I
to
can
go.
I can say also related to that. For instance, in my personal experience, before I jumped into full freelancing, I always give small steps, like not totally independent, not totally dependent, and then so it's good to. But I'm a risk not so. I'm a risk averse. I think my different type of personality there. So what I do basically is that I work as a, let's say, as a boutique illustrator. So people come to me to ask for specialized and tailored to their needs diagrams and figures. For instance, when they are applying for grants, or when they are writing a paper or a review. But I also work with institutions, scientific institutions, for workshops, for branding, so their image. So I do a lot of design and illustration, but always focused on science and on scientific needs. Another thing that I tend to do actually is to do workshops on data design. So the design principles that I think it's, even if you want to start using yourself the tools, which I think it's totally good if you have the time to spend and if you love this world, there are some tips and some ways to do it that will make your design optimal. So I collaborate with universities to build workshops to teach their students how to better do their plots and data.
I think you can add a little bit of flavor and already answer Daniela, who asked if you have any hints, any ideas on how to start a SciComm startup out of her ability of creating graphical abstracts and scientific storytelling for friends and colleagues. So in 1 minute, what's the best advice?
1 minute, build up your portfolio, reach to your inner circle, start from the scientists that you already know, and keep going until you are very passionate about it. Develop your skills and get to be known.
And learn to use Midjourney.
Yes.
You don't need creative skills anymore.
Get those prompts acting.
Nice, people. And thank you very, very much for this inspiring conversation. At least for me, it was very inspiring. I hope it was inspiring for you and the audience as well. I've learned a lot. Also had a lot of fun. It was a good excuse, this event was a good excuse to gather two friends. I and Lena, we personally met in Brazil recently. I and Gio, I think it was many years since we last in person for the last time. So as you mentioned, online events are here to stay and are a really good way for us to entertain and engage into topics that we are interested in, perhaps unite people who are spread all over the world, as is our audience. I don't know if you saw the pool. We mentioned that before starting. We have a lot of people from Asia, then people from Europe, Africa, and a little less than from North America. So quite nice to speak here from Brazil or from US and from Belgium to literally all over the world. So with these words, I end our event, and I thank you all for being here. It was a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.